All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're talking about a figure from North Carolina who was, for over a century, treated like a real-life superhero. His name? Zebulon Vance. He was seen as the people's champion, the ultimate hero who saved his state. But, real life is always a bit messier than a comic book, and his story is way more complicated.
And that really gets us to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? Was Zeb Vance this incredible hero, or was he just a man of his time, shaped by all the complicated and, often ugly parts of his era? This is a story that's full of contradictions, so let's try and unpack it together.
So who exactly was this guy? Well, to put it simply, Zeb Vance was a political rock star in North Carolina. Seriously. The man was a phenomenal public speaker, super charismatic, and he just shot up through the political ranks like a rocket.
I mean, his origin story is classic stuff. Born in a log cabin, becomes a top-notch lawyer, and then, get this, he gets elected to the U.S. Congress when he's only 28 years old. But here's the first major twist in his story. Before the Civil War, Vance was actually arguing against breaking up the country. He wanted to keep the Union together, but he also wanted to keep slavery legal within it. It was only after the firing on Fort Sumter that he did a complete 180, saying he'd rather fight against Northerners than his fellow Southerners.
Now, it was during the Civil War that Vance really cemented his legend. He was elected governor in 1862, and he became known as North Carolina's war governor. And let me tell you, he stepped right into the middle of a huge crisis.
The situation was just awful. North Carolina soldiers fighting for the Confederacy were in really bad shape. They didn't have enough food, they didn't have medicine, they didn't even have proper clothes. We're talking freezing, starving. It was desperate. The state needed a hero, and Vance was determined to be that guy.
And his solution? It was bold, it was risky, and honestly, it sounds like something straight out of an action movie. Vance put together a fleet of ships owned by the state, known as blockade runners. Their mission was basically a giant secret op: sneak past the super-powerful Union Navy, get to Europe, trade valuable North Carolina cotton, and then sneak back with all the supplies his soldiers desperately needed.
And the incredible thing is, it actually worked. These blockade runners brought back everything: shoes, blankets, medicine, uniforms. In fact, his program was so successful that North Carolina was the only Confederate state to fully supply its own troops. He even had a surplus. That number you see, 12,000, that's how many extra uniforms he was able to send to another general's army. For the people of his state, he was an absolute savior.
Okay, so we have this picture of Vance, the heroic war governor, but that's only half the story. The other half shows a man who seems completely divided. It's almost like there were two totally different Zeb Vances living in the same body.
And this right here just lays that contradiction bare. On one side, you've got Vance in 1860, a slaveholder himself, arguing that slavery is the normal condition for black people and that it serves humanity itself. It's tough to read. But then, look at the other side. This is Vance just 17 years later, after the war, pushing for the state to create a school specifically to train black teachers. The difference is just staggering.
And if there was any doubt about why he fought in the war, well, he wrote it down himself in his own autobiography. He's crystal clear. He wasn't just fighting for some abstract idea of states' rights. His main reason, in his own words, was to preserve the institution of slavery. This just makes his later support for educating black people even more complicated and, frankly, confusing.
And his post-war actions had a huge, lasting impact. That school he pushed for, a normal school for black teachers, it was founded. And today, that very same school has grown into Fayetteville State University, a respected, historically black college and university. It's a progressive legacy from a man who once went to war to keep people enslaved.
For more than 100 years, that heroic story of the war governor was pretty much the only one people talked about. But now, in the 21st century, we're looking back at our history with fresh eyes, and Vance's legacy has come under a microscope, leading to this really dramatic shift in how people see him.
This timeline really says it all. For over a century, a massive monument to him stood in Asheville. But look at how fast things changed just recently. In 2017, scholars start to publicly re-examine his life. By 2020, his name is being taken off of buildings. And then in 2021, the monument itself, after 124 years, comes down.
So what's behind this huge shift? Well, it's about looking at the whole picture. He was a white supremacist who enslaved people. After the war, he used a brutal convict labor system, which was mostly made up of formerly enslaved men, to build railroads. He was even accused of being a leader in the Ku Klux Klan, though he did publicly condemn them. But then, and this is another one of those head-scratching twists, he gave a powerful speech defending Jewish people from anti-Semitism, at a time when that was not a popular thing to do at all.
So that's where we are today. The story of Zeb Vance isn't a simple tale of a hero or a villain. It's the story of a man who could be a forward-thinking champion for some people while also defending a horrific system of oppression for others. And that brings us right back to our big question. How are we supposed to remember historical figures who just don't fit neatly into our modern ideas of good and bad? There are no easy answers here, but wrestling with these complicated truths is exactly what understanding history is all about.